It was well past midnight when Ethan finally decided to leave the old country road and take the shortcut through the forest. This was a decision, a single, simple choice that he would come to regret for the rest of his life. The road was eerily quiet, the air unnaturally still, and his headlights struggled to pierce the thick, swirling mist that coiled around the ancient trees like ghostly serpents. He'd driven this way a dozen times before, but tonight felt different. The forest itself seemed to be holding its breath, alive and watching. His radio, which had been playing a low, comforting tune, suddenly erupted in a burst of static before falling completely silent. The sudden absence of sound was deafening, and then, through that oppressive silence, he heard it. A faint whisper carried on the dead air. Someone called his name. Ethan. It was distant, almost imagined, but it was clear enough to send a shiver dancing down his spine, making his blood run cold. He scanned the dark roadside, his eyes darting left and right, expecting to see a stranded motorist, a prankster, anyone. But there was no one. The road was utterly deserted. He shook his head, forcing a nervous laugh that sounded hollow in the confines of his car. "Just tired," he muttered to himself, his own voice a weak attempt to break the spell of the woods. But then he heard it again. This time, it was closer. Sharper. Ethan. He slammed on the brakes, the car lurching to a stop. His heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. He stared into the inky blackness ahead, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. The trees swayed, their branches dancing a slow, silent waltz, yet there was no wind. Not a single breath of it. He finally found his voice, a dry croak escaping his lips. "Who's there?" The only reply was the thumping of his own heart. He waited. And then the voice answered, but not in the way he expected. It repeated his own question back to him. "Who's there?" It was a perfect imitation of his own voice, his own inflection, his own rising panic. This wasn't an echo. An echo fades. This was a response. It was something out there, mimicking him. A wave of pure primal fear washed over him. He twisted the key in the ignition, desperate to escape. The engine sputtered, whined, but refused to turn over. He tried again. Nothing. Panic began to set in, cold and sharp. He fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking. The screen lit up his terrified face, displaying the words he dreaded. No signal. Then, a new sound. From the trees just beyond the reach of his headlights, he heard the soft crunch of leaves underfoot. Slow, deliberate, heavy, footsteps, and they were getting closer. With a trembling hand, he grabbed the heavy-duty flashlight from his glove compartment, its beam cutting a shaky path into the fog. He swept the light back and forth across the tree line. It caught nothing but shifting mist and the dark, gnarled trunks of 1,000 silent witnesses. Until something moved, just at the edge of the light. A figure. It was tall, impossibly thin, and stood in a twisted, unnatural posture between two ancient oaks. Its face was wrong. Grotesquely wrong. As if the skin had been stretched too far over the bones, its mouth pulled into a wide, fixed grin that was anything but friendly. And then it spoke again. But this time, the voice was a dagger to his heart. It was his mother's voice. "Ethan, don't be scared. Come here, sweetie." He froze, his entire body locking up. It couldn't be. His mother had been dead for 3 years. "No," he whispered, the word a fragile defense against the impossible. "You're not real." But the thing didn't listen. It didn't stop. It took a step forward, out of the deeper shadows. One leg dragged uselessly behind it, the sound of bone grating and cracking with every agonizing movement echoing in the silent night. Panic, raw and overwhelming, finally broke his paralysis. Ethan threw open the car door and scrambled out, not daring to look back. He plunged headfirst into the dark woods, the cold air stinging his lungs, thorny branches whipping and tearing at his face and arms. Behind him, the voice pursued him, a relentless torrent of terror. It kept calling his name, its tone shifting, morphing. One moment it was his mother's gentle plea, the next it was the boisterous laugh of his best friend. And then it was his own voice, screaming in his ear. "Ethan, stop running! You can't get away!" The forest became a disorienting, repeating nightmare. Every direction looked the same, every tree a clone of the last. He was hopelessly lost. His foot caught on an exposed root, and he went down hard, the impact knocking the wind out of him. He landed on his hands, sharp stones and twigs digging into his palms. As he pushed himself up, gasping for breath, his flashlight beam fell on an old wooden sign nailed to a nearby tree. The paint was peeling and the wood was rotten, but he could just make out the faded words carved into it. "Never turn back." He stared at it, confusion mixing with his fear. What did it mean? He was about to find out. He heard the crunching of leaves again, but this time it wasn't coming from one direction. It was circling him, closing in. Then a whisper right behind him, so close he could feel the cold breath on the back of his neck. "Ethan." Every survival instinct, every ounce of reason screamed at him not to do it. But the command of the sign, the impossible nature of it all, it was too much. Against his better judgment, he turned around. What he saw shattered his reality. It was him, standing there, inches away, wearing the same clothes with the same terrified expression on his face, but the eyes were hollow, vacant, and the mouth was stretched into that same horrifying, predatory smile. The other Ethan tilted its head, a perfect mimicry of his own confused mannerism. "I told you not to turn back," it said. But the voice was no longer his. It was deeper, distorted, a guttural sound that vibrated in his very bones. "Now, you're mine." A scream tore from Ethan's throat, and he ran. He ran harder than he'd ever run in his life, fueled by pure adrenaline. But it didn't matter. The forest was endless, a labyrinth with no exit. His flashlight, his last beacon of hope, began to flicker. It pulsed once, twice, and then died, plunging him into absolute, suffocating darkness. In that sudden void, every sound stopped. The wind, the cracking branches, his own footsteps, all gone. All except one. The sound of soft breathing right beside his ear. A final whisper slithered into his mind. "You shouldn't have looked." Then everything went black. The next morning, a passing truck driver found Ethan's car abandoned in the middle of the old country road. The doors were wide open, the keys still in the ignition, the engine cold and dead. Police launched a massive search, combing the woods for weeks, but they never found any trace of Ethan. The only thing they discovered were his footprints, leading from the car deep into the forest. None came out. The locals, they have their own stories. They say if you find yourself driving that same road after midnight, you might just hear a voice, a soft whisper from the trees, calling your name. And they warn you, whatever you do, whatever you hear, never turn back. Because if you do, they'll find your car too. If this story sent a chill down your spine, please show your support by hitting that like button, and be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what's lurking in the darkness next. Thank you for watching.